non-monogamy can seem like so much work. Oh, I feel you. Hard. Here's the thing though, it does not have to be. Let me say that again. It does not have to be. In fact, we've been taught to make all relationships, monogamous and non, much harder than they need to be. Let's stop that. Non-monogamy can be fun. It can be deeply intimate. It can be loving, even sexy. And it just makes more sense to some of us. This is the series for that some. Welcome to It's Not Cheating, It's Ethical Non-Monogamy, presented by Dating Kinky and Curiouser.life. Here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, for those of you who don't know me. Hi, Shy. I'm Heather, also known as Nookie. In addition to living an amazing personal life full of love, sex, passion, adventure, and exploration, I write books, teach workshops, and offer coaching for better love, sex, romance, and kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more, because I believe that everyone can achieve a lifestyle of love beyond their wildest dreams. I believe it can be done. So, do non-monogamous people, hello, Ms. B, ask their partners for permission to date, to kiss, to fall in love, to whatever? Some do, some don't. There is no one right way for everyone, although some online groups will try to convince you that there is. As we get started, let me know where you're logging in from. I've got this running right now on YouTube, on Facebook, and on the Moan app. So don't forget to comment or ask your questions in chat. I keep an eye on the scroll at all times. Right now I've got, two chat windows going. I've got the Facebook and YouTube, and I've got the Moan. So I love engaging with y'all, and your comments and questions help make these lives more than just me yakking. Near the end of the presentation, I will be asking if y'all have any questions. That's when I'd be willing to call people up on the stage on Moan who might want to ask questions or engage via audio. So yeah. So here's the thing. Many people, when starting off with non-monogamy, find themselves in polyamory groups online. And some of these groups have like thousands, even tens of thousands of people. And they are full of groupthink, which is not necessarily bad. After all, people tend to love to be part of groups that reflect their values, right? I do. You do too. I create groups like that by presenting and inviting people who see the worth in the values that I represent to join me in learning more and discussing this amazing, crazy, kinky, fun, sexy, loving life that we live or hope to live, right? But those groups online, especially the polyamory groups, can also make new people who don't understand the many variations of non-monogamy and what's possible, like they are bad or wrong for wanting something different or daring to ask questions. So For example, anyone who might be interested in cuckolding or harem, joining a polyamory group online might find their questions being answered with shame on you and vitriol against the OPP, or one penis, one pussy policy, right? Because as far as those groups are concerned, that is unethical. It is when it is a forced issue, when it is a non-consensual issue, when it's an abusive issue, absolutely, positively. And it's also not really generally a common form of polyamory. However, that's one of the reasons that I really try to focus as much as possible on the idea of non-monogamy rather than polyamory. I am polyamorous. However, a lot of what I do in non-monogamy is not specifically polyamorous. And I feel that those things can overlap, but they are not necessarily the same thing. So it's not my position that you need somebody to tell you what to do. I'm here to share thoughts and ideas, right? Because my philosophy in life and love is that when it comes to any kind of relationship, non-monogamous or otherwise, what works for one couple or throuple or polycule may not be what works for another. So I'm a big fan of do what works. Now, let me say that again. Do what works. This is one of my main mantras in life as well as in my relationships. Take what works for you from this series and leave the rest, or use it to expand your understanding of what works for others. But please, 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 don't ever think that I'm telling you what to do. I'm just giving you information to figure all that out for you and your partners. So we've got some fun chat going on in Moan. We've got the adorable and wonderful Mistress K. And of course, we've also got Shy in there. So there's some jokes going on that there is a little too much empowerment happening here. And I am 100% here for empowerment, especially when it comes to empowerment in non-monogamous relationships, because I think that that is a huge key, right? So if you're game for it, absolutely, please, type into the chat what type of non-monogamy or types of non-monogamy do you practice, and or what are you curious about? What are you interested in? What are you hoping to find a partner to practice? And while we're doing that, if we're doing that, let's look at some values that might affect a group of non-monogamous people and how they think overall, and respond to discussions and questions. Okay, so we've got a cuckold dynamic with C Fantasy. Absolutely. One of my favorites, for sure. So a big contentious topic in many groups, especially polyamorous groups, but this crosses over even into non-monogamy groups, is the idea of unicorn hunting, right? Or searching for a third to add to an existing relationship for sexy times or bonding or romance, right? For some groups, like swinging, that's actually pretty common and accepted, specifically when focused primarily on the sexual connection. In polyamory communities, however, the attitudes run the gamut from, it's okay if you're open and honest, to it's never ethical to present as a couple looking for someone who must like them both to have access to fun times, love, or whatever. Wow. Never is a pretty strong statement. In kink, There are entire groups devoted to relationships and situationships exactly like that, focused on creating triads that are all involved and in love and bonded and sexy together. Who is right or wrong? Hmm? Slurpee Cuck says, I've often found these groups see someone like me as working against their movement. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of infighting in alternative communities, right? Because there's this fear, like the polyamorous point at the swingers and say, we're not like them. We don't just want sex. And the swingers are like, well, we might have sex, but we only love each other. And the kinksters, they hit people, right? It's crazy. Cross-dressed cuck says MFM threesome. And for me, it's just one-on-one with a guy. Sure. Open to individual dates with others, providing that there would be consent from my partner. Fabulous. MC, so we do the cuckold thing. She enjoys relationship with other men. I'm exploring same-sex stuff. Fabulous, right? The key for me, in my perspective, is that the people doing these things in their relationships feel like they are autonomous and they have good boundaries for their own bodies and actions, right? Cross-dressed cuck says, obviously I'm on fire for my wife to go out on dates with others, which occurs from time to time, but not nearly enough. Sure. And I will tell you this, as somebody who has been a cuckoldress for nearly 10 years now, it ebbs and flows, right? Right now, after my double mastectomy, while I'm going through the process of reconstruction, I am seeing hardly anyone outside of my partner. I am very focused in on this healing process and the mental parts that go along with that. And I'm not feeling super sexual with other people, right? Also because my tits aren't healed yet. So there's physical restraints to things that I really could be doing. And that's not something I necessarily want to get deep into explaining to new potential partners right now. So, but here's the thing, going back. Who's right or who's wrong in that scenario? It's never ethical to present as a couple looking for someone. Or, hey, this is what we do. This is all that we do. And we've got entire groups devoted to it. Or swinging, right? Who's right or wrong? All of them. All of them. Some of them are right for themselves and wrong for others. Some are right in what they want, but wrong in how they go about it. And so on. Personally, I feel like connecting with others as a couple is a valid way to connect and can be done ethically. And I also feel that many people don't have the skills to do that ethically and tend to make a big muck up of it. But I'll be honest with you, I feel that way about relationships in general. Like most people in monogamy, non-monogamy, doesn't matter. I feel like most people just overall don't have the skills and don't even know that they should be developing the skills to relationship well, regardless of the relationship style. Hey, Roger, good to see you. Roger says, you know my story. I don't have a problem with threesomes. When she asked to cuckold me, I said no. She did it anyway. She claims she did nothing we had not already done. I disagreed and divorced her. And, you know, Roger, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to revalidate your position. threesomes is different. Consensual, all participating threesomes is different than cuckolding. And creating a cuckolding dynamic in a relationship non-consensually is absolutely a valid reason to end that relationship, in my opinion. 100%. I believe that the ethical way to cuckold is to view cuckolding from the modern kink definition, which is a consensual relationship. That doesn't mean everything in the relationship is 100% consensual, because there's a lot of ups and downs, but that the relationship dynamic itself is consensual, right? Also, please, if you're watching this on video on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, please don't forget to like this video and share it or comment wherever you find me. It is a huge help to me to have people recommend me to their friends and groups or pages online. So thanks so much for that. Ms. B says, "Am the odd duck. I'm part of a cuck throuple as girlfriend and Unibol as a dom with my live-in sub." So that's awesome. Here's the thing. I identify as a hedonistic, dominant cuckoldress pimptress who is polyamorous and monoromantic. I am a cuckoldress, which for many people means that my partner would never have sexual relations outside of me. And what he would have with me would be limited potentially. That's how a lot of people see this. In fact, I've been told by many cuck men that I don't do this right. That said, I also enjoy pimping my partner out. So I share him and I offer him to others. So he does actually enjoy such things with other people. And we're also non-monogamous. So it ends up being complex. Again, going back to do what works, right? Cuckolding to me as a lifestyle is very mental. And if somebody enjoys their partner being pleasured by someone else in that very particular way, some people are calling themselves compersionists now, rather, to get over and beyond that sort of box that cuckolding has been placed in by porn, right? By Tumblr, right? And so on and so forth. So compersionism is definitely something to consider. I only cuckold one person, whereas there are people who will cuckold multiple people. Human beings are complex, and that's okay, right? So somebody sent me the question. Someone asked my significant other out on a date, knowing that they live with me. Shouldn't they have asked me too, or at least given me a heads up? Should. Let me rant a minute here. What is should anyway? Should, a verb used to indicate obligation, duty, or correctness, typically when criticizing someone's actions. Wow, that's a really ugly definition, isn't it? At least it wasn't must. Must, verb, be obliged to, should, expressing necessity. So I am wide open. I'm a hedonist, or for those of you who are familiar with the word, I'm an Epicurean. Two kinks that I absolutely do not have is shoulding on myself or others, and masturbation, terms originally coined by Albert Ellis. Both of these actions, shoulding and masturbation, pretty much require that we step outside of our own boundaries and that we feel entitled to control how others behave in their own lives. Mistress K says, our dynamic is always evolving. We don't let the container of cuckolding limit us with the shoulds of how it's supposed to look. Sexuality is a beautiful buffet of options, and I intend to sample the buffet. 100%. Ms. B says, love that. Masturbation. And Mistress K says, life is a banquet, darlings, and most poor suckers are starving to death. I completely agree, right? And most people getting into relationships, again, this goes back to me saying that most people don't have the skills to relationship well, because we are taught, we are socialized that relationships are a battle of control or be controlled, right? And those of you who have been following my boundaries talk know that control or be controlled is the most common relationship pattern dysfunction I see. It's everywhere, right? And for those who are interested in shoulding and masturbation, I've got an upcoming discussion specifically focused in on shoulding and masturbation in April. For now, I'll just say I am not a fan, and mind your own boundaries. Auntie Mame, indeed, Mistress K. So, speaking of boundaries, real quick, did you know that I'm writing a book about boundaries? I am. And you can get the chapters as I write them. In fact, right now I'm going to be condensing them down and editing them, but all 50 plus chapters are live right now and can be accessed by joining my Take No Shit workshop, which is takenoshit.curiouser.life. It's an online at your own pace workshop helping you to recognize where you need better boundaries and to build them step by step. It's $47 as a standalone, but you can get it part of your Dating Kinky Plus membership, along with hundreds of other educational options. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later. But let's continue on with the idea of permission in relationships. So back to the question. Someone asked my significant other out on a date knowing that they lived with me. Shouldn't they have asked me too, or at least given me a heads up? My answer is no. N-O, no. That is for your partner to do. If, big if, that's how your relationship is structured. Never, ever, 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 I cannot stress this enough, never put the responsibility for your relationship on others. That is for the two of you in the relationship. But it's polite to talk to me, right? Like, if you're going to date my partner, that's just the right thing to do. So you remember when I said there's no one right way for everyone and do what works? This applies here. But let me be clear, whatever your relationship agreements, rules, dynamics, whatever, they are not the responsibility of others to know, to agree with, or to maintain for you. So let's look at this question a bit more deeply. Let's unpack this. Let's talk about this, because I see this all the freaking time. Let's say you want to know the people your partner is dating, right? Your metamors or metas for short. This is a valid desire. Your partner has two choices. Agree that that is also important to them and they'll go along, or disagree. Of course, if they disagree, this is a conversation that the two of you need to have, right? If they agree, great. Step one, complete, right? Now, the person your partner might date or who wants to date your partner, your potential meta, has the same choices. They want to know you or they don't want to know you. But wait, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Way ahead. Because something else has to happen first. Can you guess what I'm thinking about? Real quick, if you're loving this content, just wanted to let you know I've recently started offering coaching. If you'd like to spend some one-on-one time with me, supercharging your relationships with a custom plan based on your personal needs, then visit me at coachnookie.curiouser.life. Of course, you're always welcome to join me for these free live events or to join one of the membership options or workshops. Some of you want more and will thrive with personal accountability, and you asked for it, so I'm offering it. So let's get back to getting curious about non-monogamy. So I said your potential meta has two choices. They want to know you or they don't want to know you. And then I said, well, we've skipped a couple steps. So back to that scenario. Before your potential meta can make the decision of wanting to know you or not, what step did we skip? The step where a conversation needs to happen first, Miss B says. Yes. Also, it's where the person who is not or not yet potentially a part of your relationship learns about that agreement in that conversation, right? So we have a conversation and I say, hey, now that we are talking about dating, my partner will want to know you. Because without that communication, there is zero reason to assume that that agreement exists. Or that I need to check in with my partner and ask them or give them a heads up. So this is the part where your partner, when being invited on a date with that person, says, I'd love to, if we could arrange a time for you to meet my fill in the blank current relationship term, nesting partner, spouse, cohab mate, whatever, right? There are two important things that happen there. The desire for connection between metas was communicated, and the chance to consent or not was given. So if you have a relationship policy that you both meet a potential partner for them and someone asks them out, it is up to your partner to tell the potential connection, to tell the meta that they will also need to meet you if they want to go out with them. Simple. It is not up to that meta to know this. And more importantly, it is not up to them to assume this. And it's not a requirement for them. They get to make a choice whether they follow through or not, whether they want to participate in your relationship agreements, even if they want to date your partner. If they continue asking your partner to date without meeting you or contacting you, it is up to your partner to cut off or refuse further contact. And I see this like mess happening all the time. Two people with a hinge partner. Two people are dating one person. That's the hinge right there. It's like a door hinge, right? You got two metas hinged together. And XYZ meta feels like they are not getting enough attention and blame ABC meta. Well, they're not in a relationship with ABC meta, right? They're in a relationship with the hinge. That is the person who makes the decisions for themselves and for what they want to do in their relationships. If ABC and hinge have an agreement, it is up to hinge to discuss as needed and enforce as needed that agreement for themselves. Because no one has a right to force their relationship agreements on others and make others responsible for maintaining them. That said, you have zero responsibility to continue to engage with someone if they don't interact with you both as you wish, right? If someone doesn't treat you the way that you need to be treated, if someone tries to cross your boundaries that you've set related to either yourself or your existing relationship or relationships, it's up to you to do something about that, not them. And that something might be, thank you so much. I've had a great time. I don't think we're a fit. Bye-bye. Okay. Does that make sense to y'all? And let's look at this another way as well. Let's say, for example, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Hey, can I have a bite of your sandwich? It's my policy that I don't share foods with others, but the supplies are in the kitchen and you're welcome to make your own. They can then decide whether it's worth their trouble to do so. No, I just want a bite. A bite is out of the question. I told you what it will take to have a PB&J in your mouth. If that doesn't work for you, you get no PB&J. Please, just one little bite. I don't have anything. Now you're ignoring my stated preferences on consent. I'd like you to leave. I withdraw my offer of any PB&J. Now, granted, this does not obviously involve an agreement with your partner, but that's kind of my point. You don't need to blame your partner, for example, when you invoke your boundaries around an agreement, right? Hey, I would like to introduce you to my partner before we go out on a date. When can we make that happen? Not, so my partner requires me to introduce them to everyone that they go out with. Ugh. Right? You're in a relationship. You're an adult. It just takes one person honoring their agreements and boundaries and sticking with them. So let's look at that question again. Someone asked my significant other out on a date knowing that they lived with me. Shouldn't they have asked me to, or at least given me a heads up? How do you feel about that now? Of course, you may not have changed your mind from the beginning. You might have been completely 100% with me. You might have been completely 100% against me. But now that you've looked at it from multiple perspectives, do you feel it is right to expect a person outside of your relationship to not only understand the rules and agreements in your relationship, but to uphold them? And while you think about that, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about our Plus membership. getplus.datingkinky.com. That's getplus.datingkinky.com. If you love content like this and you want more education on love, sex, romance, kink, and of course, non-monogamy, there is no better offer than Plus. Join Plus and you'll get access to my book, Hey Sabyasachi, always a pleasure. It's Not Cheating. It's Ethical and Consensual Non-Monogamy. You'll get over 60 hours of amazing non-monogamy presentations taught by people who live this life, like asymmetrical non-monogamy, what makes it work, and how to keep it ethical, presented by me. Hi. Getting in the Swing, a discussion with Mizzy Bender. Declutter Your Dating Life with Dr. Liz Powell. It's Not Cheating. Multiple people plus multiple communication styles equals multiple possible problems. Let's change that math. Presented by Deb the Kink Shrink. Etiquette in the Ethical Non-Monogamy Lifestyle by Lexi Silver, and more. You'll also get access to our new It's Not Cheating community, focused specifically on providing a non-judgmental space to get real information about non-monogamy in all its forms. For only $9.99 a month, $49.99 for 6 months, or $74.99 for a year, you'll get access to all of that and over 400 hours of additional content on power exchange, relationships, communication, rope, navigating the kink scene, mental health in kink, and so much more. And if you're not yet ready, although who wouldn't be ready for that? Don't forget to like, love, or subscribe wherever you're finding me so you don't miss a single live. You can also subscribe at nookie.datingkinky.com to get notified about the schedule that I have for all of my lives across multiple channels. And that way, whether I'm on YouTube or Facebook or Moan, or if I'm scheduled to be on somebody else's channel, you will know that it's coming up. So now let's look at this from yet another perspective. Do you require your partners, potential partners, to get permission from you to go on a date with them, or do you have to approve them? Do you require your partner to get permission from you to go on a date with someone? And if so, why? Don't you trust them? And while you think about that, let me ask you this. Do they need to get permission from you to go out with friends? What about to run errands? To have a business lunch with colleagues, or to go on a business trip? If you said yes to one, but not the others, it's worth thoroughly examining and unpacking your reasons. Not because I'm telling you it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. Your life, your right. Just to know where your personal lines are and to be able to discuss them together to make your non-monogamy collaborative and the best it can be for not only the both of you, but for everyone who comes into your lives. So here is where, if you'd like to come up on stage, let me know. If you have any questions about what we've covered, pop them into the chat if you're on Facebook or YouTube, or into the comments if you're watching the replay, because I will come back around. Here's the thing. In my relationships, not only do I not ask permission, But it actually feels weird to me when someone insists on meeting my partner or trying to get his permission before spending time with me. Like, it's weird, it's strange enough. It's an odd feeling, and it's often enough to kill attraction for me. Like, seriously, I'm an autonomous adult human being. I know how to handle my own relationships. You don't get to manage them for me. Key point, my partner also doesn't ask my permission. And when people ask me permission to approach my partner, I tell them, ask him. He's an adult who can make his own decisions. Since we're also kinky and we have a power dynamic, and many people know I own him, right? I might also add, he knows his rules and he'll communicate and enforce them as needed. It's simple. Of course I trust him. He knows what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and he wants the same thing out of our relationships that I do. He has given me the parts of himself that he does not share with others, and I trust him to maintain that loyalty and those gifts, right? Everything else is up for grabs. Now, we do, and this is critical, we do respect each other. We check into our mutual calendars. We make sure the dates and times are free. We talk about what we are wanting or hoping for from our different connections and where things might go. Right? Like, all of that is important. But for me, it's really quite simple. This is how I live my non-monogamy. I choose amazing partners. I love them. I trust them as human beings. I expect others to treat them like adults who can make their own decisions as well. And if we have an agreement of some sort, we inform others and maintain our boundaries as individuals, and don't expect them to somehow know or assume. It's so much easier than trying to police the whole world. I would love to hear your thoughts, your ideas. How do you feel about this? Has this conversation today changed anything that you've thought, made you think about things in a different light? You don't have to answer me now, but pop something into the comments once the replay is up. I think when it comes right down to it, a huge part of non-monogamy for me, and for those of you who follow me, Roger, you've heard this a million times. Sabyasachi, you've heard this a million times. Kay, you've probably heard this a million times. The key to any relationship is building it in the sweet spot. And the sweet spot is, it's a Venn diagram. One circle is, this is what I want. One circle is, this is what you want. And that overlap in the middle is the sweet spot. And when you are building a relationship in the sweet spot and acknowledging that both people have their own wants and desires and boundaries and needs, control or be controlled is a less and less valid or attractive way to live. And interestingly enough, the ability, or at least I have found, and people I know who have started these lifestyles themselves have found that the ability to trust actually increases when living this way. Sabyasachi says, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Yep. And Tommy says, happy St. Patrick's Day. Subby says, happy St. Patrick's Day. I actually put on green specifically for St. Patrick's Day. My partner, as he was going out the door today, decided to work in the office today. As he was going out the door, I said, hey, you're not wearing green. And he said, uh-oh, I'm not sure if I have any green. And I said, oh, so you're just going to go to the office and, get all the pinches from all the hotties. And he does this silly little sexy dance. He's like, I'm not wearing green. Come on and pinch me. Hey, everybody, not wearing green. Silliness. Ms. B says, I don't ask for permission per se to date others, but I do communicate if I'm planning to go out with someone new, which is absolutely valid. And I think that there is a huge difference between being honest and communicative and authentic and asking for permission, right? So thanks to all of you for joining me today. If you love this discussion, please like it, share it with others who would enjoy it, point people to curiouser.life or datingkinky.com. Don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're finding me so you don't miss out on upcoming lives. And speaking of upcoming lives, next week's schedule. So I have 7 lives next week. We have at 10 a.m. on Monday, a relationship is 50-50. Bullshit. And then at noon on Tuesday, we've got one badass bitch or whatever, building better boundaries. At 7 a.m. on Wednesday, this one will definitely be in Moan. I prefer my kink, paraphrasing 007, inspired, not enforced. And that's for our FLR Femdom and Women in Charge series. On Wednesday at noon will be another episode of the Dating Kinky Book Club. We'll be talking about fantasies this time. Next Thursday at 2, how being a selfish shit brought me more love, passion, and romance than I ever dreamed. At 3 p.m. will be a private live for the Take No Shit workshop. It'll be Opposites Attract, Empaths and Others, where I'll be discussing how empathic people are often attracted to sociopathic, psychopathic, and narcissistic folks. Yeah. And then Friday, a week from today at 10 a.m. Eastern, absolutes are the worst, communicating in relationships. So again, thank y'all for joining me. It has been a real pleasure to have you, and I hope to see